Welcome and thanks for joining us. This is episode 8 of our hybrid work with Microsoft Teams webcast. I'm your host, Stephen Rose. Thanks for joining us today. Our topic, step-by-step walkthrough of creating low-code, no-code apps with Power Platform. In the past few months, you've heard the term citizen developers quite a bit. And I thought it'd be great to talk a little bit more about that. So I actually went to the Gartner website and got the definition of what a citizen developer is. And they say it is a user who creates new business applications for consumption by others using development and runtime environments sanctioned by corporate IT. And users can build departmental, enterprise, and even public applications using shared services, fourth generation language style development platforms, and cloud computing services, which leads us in beautifully to our conversation today to talk about Project Oakdale. I hope it gets a better name when it goes live. And one of the people who's deeply involved in that is my first guest, Weston Lander, who is a senior product marketing manager with the Microsoft Teams team. Weston, how are you this morning?
Doing well, Stephen. How are you?
I am doing great. Take a moment and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I'm Weston Lander. Y'all can find me on Twitter if you'd like, but I've been with Microsoft for a few years now, and I've specifically focused on Teams and Power Platform integration for the last 18 or so months. Prior to that, I was doing first-line worker and industries work within the modern workplace, but I've really been diving deep on this Teams and Power Platform integration for about 18 months, as I said.
Awesome. I thought it'd also be great to get a look at the other side of the coin, which is to talk to somebody who has real world experience who's doing this. I was super excited that Reza Dorrani, who's a principal consultant and Power Platform practice lead at Catapult Systems, who is also an MVP, was able to join us today. Reza, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Take a moment, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I am Reza Dorrani. I am a Microsoft Business Applications MVP, and I work as the practice lead for Power Platform at my organization, Catapult Systems, and I am here to talk all about Teams and Power Platform.
Awesome. And we can even see your MVP awards right behind you. So we're going to go back to Weston here in just 2 seconds, but we also have a great section today. We're going to talk with Homer McEwen, who is also known as KillaDBA, who wrote an amazing song about Microsoft Teams. And we're going to get our first look at the Acer Concept series, the Series D. This is a phenomenal laptop for those of you who are developers or IT pros who are looking for a lot of power in a single machine. We're talking Xenon Core. Post your questions in the chat. If you're watching this on replay, send them off to me on Twitter at Stephen L. Rose. Happy to answer them. And at the end of the show, we'll post any links we talk about. So Weston, let's start with you. Project Oakdale, the ability to build and manage apps from within Teams. Let's talk a little bit about what we announced at Ignite and what Project Oakdale is. And please tell me we're going to get a better name for it.
There's a new name coming, yes.
And it is
the project. I can't tell you that quite yet, Stephen. Come on.
You can tell me when we get off camera, then I'll know it.
I'll give you a whisper later. But what we announced at Ignite, and we actually shared some of this all the way back at Inspire, was this concept of Project Oakdale. And what that is, it's really a few different things. The real essence of Project Oakdale is what is essentially a lightweight version of the Common Data Service, CDS, that's been brought into Teams. And what that enables is the seamless deployment of apps built with Power Apps right into your Teams environment. And so that rich backend of what Project Oakdale is and CDS and built on the common data model, that is what enables the new Power Apps app for Teams. And so that's the place where you'll actually be able to go in, build data tables within that Project Oakdale environment, and then distribute those Canvas apps right out to your organization.
Now, one of the things that we talked about at Ignite was that is also going to make it easier to manage these apps, that you can then push them out from a centralized source. You can manage them, pick who gets them. So this is really going to help not only in the creation of these apps, but in being able to manage these apps from an IT pro standpoint.
Absolutely. So one of the big things that we've heard from our customers when they were going through kind of their exploration of Power Apps in the past was application lifecycle management was a little more difficult on a traditional SharePoint list. It's a great entry point to get started building apps, but really if you want to have something that's going to be able to scale into a full enterprise grade application, which is really the journey we see a lot of our customers go on, because
Right.
they start building an app and they understand, then they see and understand the value of what that app brings to their organization, and they want to expand it. But there's a limitation on your ability to do that on a SharePoint list.
Right.
Something built on the common data model with kind of that CDS-like back end, you really have a lot more opportunity to grow that application as your organization needs.
Now, templates are a key piece of this. When I started playing with this a few weeks ago, I found a template and I built upon it. I found it very easy to say, oh, okay, this does this. What if I make this little change here, or add these pieces in? So are there a lot of templates for folks to start from, or do they need to start from scratch for every single project and sort of find their way through it?
No, we recommend, or not necessarily recommend, but for folks to get started, it's really easier if you kind of take that template. You see how it works. You kind of can understand the back end. You're not starting from scratch. So those templates really are a great way to get started. For folks who are more familiar with kind of building an app from the ground up, go ahead and start. I mean, it really is a blank canvas. We call it a canvas for a reason, right?
Right.
You can do whatever you want with it, but the templates are a great way to leverage some work that some folks have already built up and some thinking that folks have put into an application, and then modify it for your organization's needs.
Got it. So I chatted with some IT pros about this, and I remember when Flow first showed up in the web app, like when you were in OneDrive or when you were in different applications, we saw it there. And I remember a lot of IT pros saying, hey, I don't want people just building apps. I'm afraid of it running on an unsecured device. I don't know what kind of data it's working with. I'm worried about getting a ton of charges for this and ending up with a huge bill because somebody picked a simple flow and it ran 3,000 times and all of a sudden it gets a huge bill. So what do we have to say to IT pros about how this is different, and those issues are not the issues that they're going to have with Oakdale and running these apps inside of Teams?
Absolutely. That has been something that the engineering teams have been working on and focused on, because we know these are concerns of our customers and particularly the IT pro audience. And we think that what has been built within this Project Oakdale backend is really the next evolution in that security and management component, which we know is critical. So not only the point that you mentioned about having these flows running and making sure people aren't just willy-nilly building apps in kind of this shadow IT space where central IT doesn't have visibility into that.
Right.
Like, that's one element. And the great thing about having this and all the admin controls that are set up in that CDS environment kind of provides some rules around that. The other really critical part is that having IT in control of what, like, this safer sandbox allows you to ensure that the data on the back end is not corrupted in any way.
Okay.
The CDS environment provides that kind of safety of data controls, so your core enterprise data is not at risk and having people kind of get in and test things out because of the security and manageability that we have built into that Oakdale backend.
Okay. You used the word sandbox, which I think is a great word for my next question. I'm great at deploying. I can move stuff to the cloud and I can do all that, but building apps is not my strong point. And I'm afraid that if I try to build an app, that I'm going to take something out or start something running in the background or break something. Yes. Is there some sort of sandboxed environment that has everything I need, because I don't know what I need and what I don't, that I can go in and just try to build some stuff and play with this without affecting myself or other users or things along that line? Because that seems like a good place for everybody to start. So is there a way to do that at all, or do I need to go into a VM and try to do everything in a VM?
No, there's a few great things about this. One is there are IT controls on what is ultimately published to an organization or a tenant. Like you have the ability to control what is distributed.
Okay.
And so folks can go in and try building apps on their own. We also have something called community plans. And you can go in and spin up one of these environments where you can really go in, test, build, and then distribute all of those components that you've built to your larger organization once you think it's production ready.
Awesome. And we'll give out, that's the Power Apps community plan. We'll give out that link a little bit later in the show. One more question for you, and then I'm going to go to Reza, and that is, how do people sign up for this Oakdale thing? What's the best way for them to get it and get access to these pieces and bits, et cetera?
Yeah, so it's actually really easy. I think Reza is going to show you a little bit of how you get started. And it's really just through the app that Reza is going to, I think, show everyone here in a few minutes. So if you go and you install the Power Apps app for Teams, and similarly, like we've given a lot of love to apps, but my other thing that I'm really excited about is bots built with Power Virtual Agents. Let's not forget about that. So both of those leverage this rich Project Oakdale backend and allow that seamless deployment to Teams. So just like apps, your bots can be seamlessly deployed, and that's also through the new Power Virtual Agents app within Teams. So as long as you have that set up in your app store, anyone can then install those apps and start building within, again, that safe sandbox that we provide.
Cool. Before I jump over to Reza, is there a really cool thing that you've seen someone do with Oakdale since you guys have announced it?
A really cool thing that we've done
company or a person or someone who reached out to you, just one thing you went, wow, that's super cool. Or somebody who built something so simple, you're like, God, that's so simple, but it's so smart. I know I'm putting you on the spot. If you need to think about it, I can come back to it.
I think the coolest stuff that we're seeing today is really, again, folks that are enabling, and there's I won't put them on the spot.
That's fine.
Because I don't have approval to necessarily distribute their name. But there's a hospital system in Canada that's doing some really cool stuff with kind of this whole citizen developer concept. So they've actually distributed in preview the app to a bunch of the folks that they had as makers before. And they're really churning out kind of this center of excellence. That's one. There's another in the oil and gas industry that's doing something similar. So it's not necessarily kind of these big scale applications, but it's really the sum of all of these little applications that have very specific departmental use that we're really excited about with Oakdale in particular.
Awesome. Great. I appreciate that. We're going to come back to you in a little bit with questions, but I want to jump over to Reza. Reza, how are we doing today?
Doing good, sir.
Awesome. Walk us through Oakdale. Show us what you do. I also want to make sure at the end, and we'll give the link, that we pimp out your YouTube page. You have a YouTube page where you do a lot of these types of demos and things along that line. So we'll make sure to show that later. So folks go, hey, I want to see some other examples of this and how this comes together. We'll do that. But walk us through building an Oakdale app.
Absolutely. So as you can see right now, I am in Microsoft Teams, and right here in Teams, to get started with Oakdale, it's as easy as going to apps and just searching for the respective apps. So for getting started with Oakdale, just search for Power Apps, install the app. And one tip from my side, make sure you pin the app so you don't lose it on the left-hand navigation rail. So here's my Power Apps app that I have already installed. And this directly takes me now into the Oakdale experience for building apps for my teams. And right here, we have those 3 starter templates that Weston was referring to, and there are many, many more templates coming. Now, if you would like to get started with creating an app for your team, all you have to do is just go to create an app, select your team. So in my case, I have a team called Power Platform, and just click create. And just like that, I have the entire Power Apps Maker experience, which is the Power Apps Studio, embedded right here in the context of Microsoft Teams. Another thing that I wanted to talk about with relation to this app is if I head back to this app, and I just want to show you this in full screen mode because I just want to remove the Chrome for Teams. If you notice right here, it's listing out all the Microsoft Teams for which I have an Oakdale environment created. And the moment you build your first app, it creates the Oakdale setup for you. So in my case, I have a team, and this team has a lot of artifacts that have been created. So if I go to see all, this will now show me all the components related to my team. So I can see all the apps that I have built, and you can build multiple apps per team. Weston mentioned you can build chatbots using Power Virtual Agents. Let's not forget, you can also build flows using Power Automate. And these are your database tables that you create within Oakdale. Now, if I head back to the maker experience once again, this is when I created the app. It comes with a sample template ready for you to go. And all I need to do is basically create some tables, get some data in, and get the app and push it to Teams. So I will click on create a table. I will give this table a name. Let's say I'm creating a help desk application. So I'm going to call this table tickets. And just like that, it will create a table for me in my Microsoft Team Oakdale environment. And this is very, very similar to the experience of a SharePoint list for folks who are experts at SharePoint. And right here, if I go to plus, I can create columns of rich data types. So for example, let's say I have a ticket. Maybe I want a ticket ID, which gets automatically generated. So I just created a ticket ID column. Maybe I need a description that the user needs to enter for my ticket. And maybe after all of this, I also need a category associated with my ticket. So I can make this a choice column, pick my choices, maybe IT, facilities, create, and that's it. Just by doing this, it has created a table for me in my Oakdale environment. And this is very Excel-like. So if I had data that I want to bring into here, literally I just copy and paste it right here in this experience. Now, once I'm done with building my table or tables, all I have to do is just get back to my app. And this app is so smart that it just picks that table, connects it to my app. And if I actually preview this app right now, this is a live app. I can start creating tickets. I can edit tickets. I can delete tickets. I have the full experience right here. So I can say I have a new ticket. I am having an issue with my phone. The description is phone connection issue. And the category for this is going to facilities. And I click save. And just like that, it created a ticket for me. And here's my ticket number, that is 1,000. So that's how easy it is for me to get in here and start building things. And of course, we are in Power Apps. Nothing stops us from going and connecting to all the 400 plus connectors that are available. SharePoint, Excel, SQL, no matter what your data source is, you can bring all that data into this app. And finally, when you're done with your app, let's go ahead.
That's awesome. And then all I'd have to do is just hit.
Yeah. And once
go ahead.
Once you have your app ready, make sure you rename it because you want to have a consistent naming pattern for your apps. In order for me to push this to Teams, it's literally a single click of a button that's right here, publish to Teams. And this now will save your app and then go ahead and publish it to the team for which you created the app for. And within seconds, this will list out all the channels of my team. I just have one channel. I will click on the add button right here, and that's it. My app is ready to go in Microsoft Teams. Now, if I head over to Teams.
That's amazing. You did that in like 6 minutes from beginning to end.
So if I head over to Power Platform here, and if I go to Help Desk, here's my app right here in Microsoft Teams, my living, breathing app. I can go create new records, go back to the existing record, make changes, delete changes, all of this in Oakdale. Now, of course, we spoke about templates, and they are great starter points, but there are other things as well that you can do. And I have a demo around another scenario that I will quickly showcase. So I have a team right here, and a very common request is an expense reporting app, very, very common use case. So I built an expense reporting solution leveraging Project Oakdale. So all the data is in Oakdale. Here's my app built using Power Apps. So let's say I go here and I request a new expense that I would like to create. So I will say meeting with client X. So I'm meeting with client X and I met the client today and I would like to associate this to Contoso, and sample meeting is my comments, and I will click create. So just like that, I created an expense. Now I can create line items and associated with my expense. I can use the receipt scanning component, which is an cognitive services Azure component that I have baked into my app right here. So this will actually go and scan the receipt and gather all the information from that receipt, like the merchant name, the total cost, the transaction date. And finally, I can just go ahead and click save. And just like that, I have an expense and I have line items that I can associate with my expense and submit this for an approval process using Flow. Now, as the approver, once the approver gets the request,
Awesome.
I pre-created
That
one.
is.
Thank you. So I have the approval process right here in Teams, and this is a pre-created item right here. So the approver can actually click on the link, and this will straight away deep link into the Power App, so you can see the entire details of the expense, and the approver then can approve or reject the expense right here in Teams using the Flow bot. And last but not the least, let's not forget, we also have Power Virtual Agents, which enables us to build these intelligent chatbots. So if I was to interact with my chatbot, let's say I say hello. So I'm going to say hello to my chatbot. My chatbot is going to be contextually aware of who the logged in user is. So it says, hi, Reza. I'm going to say, I need my expense details. And once I do this, it's going to go ahead and ask me, what's the status of your expense you're looking out for? Maybe I will say, show me all my expense statuses and get me all the expenses that are greater than $80. And just like that, the chatbot can once again scan my Oakdale environment and grab all the information around my expenses and bring that information for me right here in this experience.
Yeah. 2020 quarantine, Microsoft team. Yeah. I'm Microsoft teaming with Microsoft Teams. I'm learning and dreaming with Microsoft Teams. The hub and the teamwork of Microsoft 365 in these quarantine times. I'm Microsoft teaming with Microsoft Teams. Yeah.
I have a very exciting announcement today. I have a super interesting guest. You may have heard his work, but you probably don't know who he is. So with that, I'd like to introduce KillaDBA. KillaDBA, aka Homer. How are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm good, Stephen. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I saw some tweets about your song, and some people sent it to me and said, you've got to hear this amazing song, leveraging some of the sounds from Teams and how he's put this thing together. And I went, wow, this is awesome. So I reached out to my team and I'm like, we got to find this guy. And we chatted a few weeks ago, and you told me how you got the idea for the song and how you put it together. And I don't want to steal all the thunder. So first of all, why are you KillaDBA?
So I'm KillaDBA, to be honest, because my gamer tag is KillaDBA on Xbox, which my 20-year-old stole from me about 10 years ago, but I still use it sometimes. And I was playing Halo, and I'm a DBA, database administrator.
Right.
And so it only made sense to become KillaDBA. So I started that years ago.
So you're a database administrator. You've been using Microsoft products for a long time. We chatted about, some SQL and some Power BI and all that sort of stuff. And you were kind of running around the house, and somebody made a call, and you heard the Teams music, but you heard it in a totally different way, the theme. So kind of walk me through what happened there.
So to be honest, when I first heard it, it was like, oh my gosh, not again, because I was, getting a call, and I knew that someone had a question or that maybe there was an issue with the database. And so I turned that into a positive by just kind of bobbing to it. Bloom, 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 bloom. And I was like, oh, that's a song. I hear songs in a lot of things that most people won't hear songs in, I think. But I immediately just started singing the song in my head. And I was like, I gotta do this. I gotta lay this down. And I just kept thinking about, quarantine and a lot of people using Microsoft Teams because of the remote work situation. And I was like, man, it'd be a great idea to just, I had to creatively get it out, to be honest.
Sure.
And so,
and you have to actually love Microsoft Teams to want to write a song about it. So would that be true in saying that you just love use of Microsoft Teams?
I do love the tool, and I love it when things go the way they should, and there's no fires to put out. So I've definitely never had any issues, and I think it's a great product. The application has never let me down, and it's the ringtone was cool, and just when we were introduced to Teams a couple of years ago, from whatever we were using, it was just easy to adapt to. It was intuitive. It was just a great product to use. And yeah, I write a lot of techie songs, and because I'm a user of it, it was not hard to put the lyrics together to write it. I mean, it was fun actually. And so it was just a fun thing all the way around, just creating it and using the ringtone to make it a song that I thought was cool.
That's awesome.
And you guys say you like it, which is like really the coolest thing about it. So
we don't just like it, we love it. As a matter of fact, we played a clip of it coming into the interview, and I want to give you a moment in a second to show how people can get to it on SoundCloud and all the other stuff and hear the full version. You did a music video for it, so we're going to put the full music video in our extras area so folks can check that out. But I'm very excited to announce that we've checked with all the internal teams at Microsoft, and we're good that we have one more show this season, and we'll start season 3 in January, and your song is going to be the official theme to this podcast. If you're good.
Wow. I am totally good with that, Stephen. Thank you. I'm honored. Like, that is awesome.
Well, we will absolutely do that. We will give you credit, make sure everybody knows where that song came from. And if people want to go hear more of your stuff, where do they go? I know you're on SoundCloud, so to give us run through how we find you and how we find all your stuff.
So on SoundCloud, you can just search for KillaDBA. That's KillaDBA. You can find me on Instagram, KillaDBA. On Twitter, KillaDBA. That's KillaDBA. I'm also on Spotify and also on iTunes. And I have a new album coming out. I have like 15 techie songs coming out.
Awesome. Well, I will even pay. I won't even listen to that on Spotify. I'll go to my iTunes account and I'll pay for it and get it. And everybody should too, because you're doing great work, and we really appreciate it. And it's people like you that are so passionate about our products that just make this awesome. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it. Go check out KillaDBA stuff. Next season, it's our theme song. We're super excited, and we are teaming with Microsoft Teams with KillaDBA.
Thanks for having me, Stephen. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That was pretty cool, seeing what KillaDBA, aka Homer, was able to do there. That was a really cool song. So Reza, real quick, we showed a little bit about how folks interact with the bot within Teams. Could you show folks how easy it is to actually start building that bot? That's kind of one of the new things that has come along with this Project Oakdale and the PBA app. I'd love to see that.
So let me go ahead and share my screen once again. And just like we have the Power Apps app now in Microsoft Teams, we also have the Power Virtual Agents app. And once I have this app installed, all I have to do is literally just click on Start Now. And just like I had the Power App experience where I had to select a team, same scenario right here. I just go ahead, pick my team, and click Continue. And this will then directly take me to the bot creation experience. And the bot that I demoed earlier, which was my expense reporting bot, I just want to show that there was literally not a single line of code written. All of this literally through a graphical user interface that Power Virtual Agents has, wherein you can ask a question, you can call an action, you can show messages, and end the bot with a valid survey. So all of this available for you right here in the context of Microsoft Teams.
That's awesome. Reza, real quick, we talked about some of these connectors and all the different data that you can connect to within Teams. I know that there's licensing implications for some of those premium connectors and things like Azure Cognitive Services. But could you tell me about the new tool that you're using to actually connect to some data outside of just the Oakdale environment?
Sure. So out of the 400 connectors that I spoke about, those connectors are classified based on its licensing type. They are either standard or premium. The use case that I showcased around the receipt scanning component that uses Azure Cognitive Services, yes, that requires some additional licensing costs. And there's the brand new feature that they announced at Ignite is when you leverage Azure API management, and through Azure API management, if you create your custom connectors that talk to any API of your choice, those connectors are available to you as a standard connector. And that's exactly what I leverage in my expense reporting app. So all I have to bear for is the Azure costs, which are really minimal.
That's really cool. So again, I think that's something that's really interesting. And what Reza highlighted today was what we think of in a somewhat of a hybrid model of what a pro developer or an IT pro can do, and then what we're calling the citizen developer or app maker can do. So the ability to actually create some of those APIs and provide this rich infrastructure is something that you can do for these really robust applications. But being able to then also provide that space where makers can build solutions for kind of their departmental use cases is also really interesting. So thank you for sharing that, Reza.
Hi, and welcome to our unboxing. This week we're talking about Power Platform, which means we're chatting with a lot of developers. And if you're a developer, you're always looking for the most powerful laptop out there that you can use. Many of you use Macs, and I'd like to make a good case for the new Acer ConceptD. First of all, this is a 10th generation 8-core Intel i7 Xenon core. Yes, correct. I really did say that. It is a Xenon core with an NVIDIA Quattro RX 5000 Max-Q design graphics card. This machine is a monster. If we take a look at more of the specs here, we can see that this is 32 gigs of RAM. You have the ability to get this with 2 terabytes of storage in two 1 terabyte solid state RAID 0 displays. And this is the only that I know of Pantone certified 4K IPS display. What does that mean? Well, that means that you are going to get one of the nicest, sharpest pictures that you are ever going to get here on a laptop. If you take a look, this is absolutely gorgeous. This is also a built-in Wacom tablet, and it comes with a Wacom EMR pen that never needs to be charged. So from a development standpoint, if you're a game developer, product designer, video editor, motion graphics editor, graphic designer, architect, engineer, this is absolutely one of the machines that you want to look at. But you're going, hey, Steven, it looks just like a regular laptop. How am I going to draw right on this thing? That's the beauty of this, is this hinge. So with this hinge, we can pull this down and turn it into a full drawing tablet like so. I'm going to edge that down a little bit, and you can see that we're taking a look here. So you have your touchpad here, and you have your whole screen up here. We can, of course, do a presentation kind of tabletop mode. We can put it all the way down flat. We can tent it, or we can completely flip it over. It's this hinge that really holds at any sort of level that you're at, that really gives this laptop some really great and unique ways of being able to work. Ports are absolutely a second thing for this too. It doesn't do you any good without a USB-A 3.1 port, 2 USB-C ports with Thunderbolt 3, an 8.5 millimeter audio jack, gigabit Ethernet port, HDMI 2 with HDCP support, a display port, a full-size SD card reader, and wireless connectivity that's provided both by Wi-Fi 6 and by Bluetooth 5. I ran some tests on this. Premiere Pro was able to take a 2-minute 4K video clip, and it was able to render it in 2 minutes and 57 seconds, which is incredibly fast as we take a look. So what do we like about it? What don't we like about it? Well, obviously, this screen is amazing. It is a touch screen, which is also really, really nice as you're starting to use it. It's Gorilla Glass, and it has this new coating on it, so you don't see all of the fingerprints, which I really, really like about it. This thing is heavy. How heavy? Well, it's weighing in about 5.6 pounds. So if you're looking for something that's more of a desktop replacement, this is going to be a great device for you that you can pick up and take to customer meetings, that you can move from place to place or hook up with some different monitors. So it is certainly not the lightest laptop out there, but you're getting this really great, innovative, and super useful design. You're getting this amazing performance because of the NVIDIA graphics card, some really great inputs, and a really good display. It is expensive, and it is large, and it is heavy, but for those of you who really want to be able to have that perfect gaming laptop or that perfect all-in-one design laptop, this may absolutely be the laptop for you. I highly recommend checking out the ConceptD series from Acer. We're back. You might notice that I look a little different. It's because I had a bit of a technical issue and I switched over to a second laptop, which is always great to have a backup. So there you go. I don't know if you guys answered these questions while I was gone, but there was one about the CDS license in creating Power Apps and Teams, which leverages that. What happens if you have... Sorry, let me ask that again. If I disable Common Data Service for Teams, will that prevent users from creating Power Apps, even if the Power Apps is enabled for users?
So from a licensing,
Go ahead, Reza.
So from a licensing standpoint, Project Oakdale is available for you with your standard Office licenses. So typically, if you are interacting with CDS, you need a premium license. In this scenario, you do not need any premium licensing. Your Office licenses will cover you for this. Of course, your users need to have a Power Apps license, which you get from your standard Office license. And your team's owners, members, they can go ahead and create these environments, build apps, build flows, build bots at no additional licensing cost.
Yeah, and in addition to that, something I'd like to highlight, and I think is part of the question, is the ability to assign who's able to actually make and build apps is still controlled by security groups. So you're able to actually determine who is allowed within your entire tenant, which groups are allowed to actually go in and create apps. So there's actually an association with team owners, team members, things like that, and your association with specific teams. As you know, the back end, that's all security groups. And so you can actually control who are your makers. So if you have people who you know and trust within an organization, like a citizen developer community, those are the folks that you can actually then bring into that kind of safe sandbox without having to shut down the entirety of that new Oakdale experience. So I would encourage you to explore that as an option, but it also does not, shutting Oakdale down on your tenant does not mean that you can't leverage the apps that you built on the Power Apps web client and bring those in, just like you could sideload those applications using the old method.
So then just to be clear, CDS for Teams has no effect, correct?
No effect on licensing?
No effect on being able to build this if you don't have it turned on, that you're on licensing and being able to use this. So is it a different CDS or it's the same version, but it's not charged if you're doing Oakdale apps? Somebody's asking for a little clarity.
Yes. So in order to use the Oakdale environments, you have to do it within the Teams context. To use CDS in the Power App standalone, you'll have to actually leverage the premium licensing to be able to access that.
But inside of Teams with Oakdale, you're good.
Right. And I would encourage you to use security groups and things like that if you're really just trying to lock it down to a specific group of makers.
Awesome. That is a great place for us to end. First of all, I want to thank both of you for joining us today, for giving up time and for dealing with our technical issues. I apologize, but Weston and Reza, I appreciate both of you stepping up while I switched over to another machine. We have a lot of links that we want to show off, so let's move over to those. We have some great resources. We have, of course, where you can go to learn about more about Project Oakdale, our Power Platform resources, our community plan, PR learning. Make sure to check out session PR 134, and the quick start will give you everything that we've covered. And you can, of course, reach out to Weston and Reza through their Twitter or LinkedIn. I know that they're great to do that. So I want to say thank you for everybody watching. I have an awesome surprise for you for our next show. We will be joined by Jeff Teeper himself. Jeff is going to be answering your questions. We're going to talk about what is the future of Teams and M365, where it's going, what he's excited about, and maybe even ask him some questions about his guitar collection. So if you have questions for Jeff Teeper, send them to me via Twitter, and I will be happy to collect them and ask them of him on our show, which I believe is November 2nd. Check the website to make sure. Again, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Make sure to check out Acer D, check out KillaDBA site, and we're all teaming with Microsoft Teams. Thanks, and have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.